The room smelled of money, not the worn scent of paper bills or polished coin. It was the fragrance of excess, of cologne that cost more than rent, of imported cigars and aged whiskey. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the New York skyline like a living painting, and the gleam of the chandeliers bounced off crystal glasses filled with $3,000 champagne. Every corner of the penthouse screamed power. In the center stood Jackson Reed, the man who owned the view, the building, and some whispered, the city itself. He was tall, handsome in a cold, engineered way, wearing a suit that looked like it had never touched a hanger. When he moved, others stepped aside. His laughter was loud and practiced, his words carefully calibrated for attention. Jackson didn't just want to be admired, he wanted to be worshipped. Tonight he had gathered titans, tech moguls, real estate giants, hedge fund monsters, all orbiting him like moons around a very dangerous sun. Then came the shift. "Who's the boy?" a guest murmured, looking past the buffet table stacked with gold-leaf desserts. Jackson followed the gaze, his smile fading. In the far corner, next to a gleaming, high-security vault built into the wall like a throne, stood a young boy. He was small for his age, maybe 11, wearing worn jeans and a second-hand hoodie. His hands were in his pockets. His eyes were locked on the vault. A janitor wheeled a cart across the room, trying to move quickly and unseen. Mary, her uniform clean but faded, looked up and froze when she saw who was staring at her son. Jackson's voice cut through the music like a scalpel. "Mary," he called, casual venom in his tone. "Is that your kid?" She nodded, panic blooming behind her eyes. "Yes, mister." "Reed, I'm so sorry. He didn't mean—" No, Jackson said, raising a hand. "Let's not scold the little explorer." He turned to the crowd, the smirk blooming on his face. "Ladies and gentlemen, meet Nathan. He's been admiring my new baby." He gestured to the vault. "Custom-designed next-generation security system, triple redundant fail-safes. This thing could survive a nuclear strike." A ripple of amusement ran through the crowd. Jackson stepped toward Nathan, crouching slightly to look him in the eye. "Tell me, Nathan," he said with mock sincerity, "you think you can open it?" The boy didn't flinch. "Maybe." Laughter erupted like a shot. Jackson laughed the loudest. "Did you hear that? Maybe. This kid's got guts." He stood up, turned to his guests, and lifted his glass. "All right then, let's make this interesting." Mary's eyes widened. "Mr. Reed, please." Jackson ignored her. $100 million, he said. "If this boy can crack that vault right now, I'll wire the money tomorrow." The room gasped, then burst into a mix of laughter and applause. "He's joking, right?" someone whispered, but Jackson's expression was stone. Nathan looked at his mother. She shook her head slowly, terrified, but the boy stepped forward. The laughter faded. Jackson, intrigued, stepped aside. The boy approached the vault. No hesitation, no theatrics, just calm, deliberate movement. He didn't touch the dial. He didn't even kneel. He stood before it, studying. Silence thickened the air, then he spoke. "You picked this model because it's flashy," Nathan said, loud enough to be heard. "But the override system is the same as the older version, just buried deeper in the software." Jackson blinked. A flicker of something, confusion, recognition, passed behind his eyes. Nathan didn't look at him. He kept his eyes on the vault. "You think no one could figure that out, but it's just ego. A lot of money spent to hide a weakness." The room was silent. Nathan turned to face Jackson. "You shouldn't make bets when you don't understand what you're betting with." It hit like a slap. Jackson let out a tight laugh. "That's cute. Very dramatic." He waved to the room. "Future CEO, ladies and gentlemen." A few chuckles, but the mood had shifted. No one was quite sure what had just happened. Nathan walked back to his mother, who looked both horrified and proud. Jackson stared after him, his jaw tight. The crowd began to murmur. Conversations resumed. The music rose slightly. But the air wasn't the same. Jackson raised his glass again, but this time his voice didn't carry the same confidence. Something about that boy unnerved him, not because he'd touched the vault, but because he hadn't needed to. And for the first time in years, Jackson Reed wondered if maybe, just maybe, he had made a mistake. The morning after the party, the penthouse felt like a crime scene. The glasses had been cleared, the music silenced, but the atmosphere lingered, tense, hollow, unsettled. Jackson Reed stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, sipping an espresso he hadn't tasted, watching the skyline like it owed him an answer. He couldn't stop thinking about the boy. "Sir," his assistant said quietly, "Mary and her son are here." Jackson turned. "They came back. She said they wanted to apologize for any disruption." He didn't like surprises, but something in him, the same instinct that had whispered, "He's not like other kids," told him to let them in. Mary and Nathan stood in the same spot as the night before. She looked nervous, clutching her hands. Nathan looked calm. Too calm. "We're here to say sorry," Mary began. Nathan didn't mean to be disrespectful. He was just curious. I was listening," Nathan interrupted, stepping slightly forward. Jackson raised an eyebrow. "Listening to what, exactly?" "The silence," Nathan said. "That vault, it hums. All the new ones do." Jackson scoffed. "So you're an expert now?" Nathan shrugged. "I knew someone who was." The room had other ears today. 3 board members lingered near the bar, whispering, pretending not to watch. A few security consultants from a visiting firm leaned casually against the far wall. Nathan's eyes didn't leave Jackson's. "My father used to say the best systems don't just keep people out, they keep the truth buried," he said. "And your vaults do both." There was a shift in Jackson's face, subtle but real. Mary looked down, her lips tight. Jackson glanced at her, then back to the boy. "What do you mean, used to say?" Nathan's voice was steady. "He died. Working for you." That did it. The consultants stopped whispering. One of the board members turned fully toward them. Jackson's voice dropped. "What's your father's name?" "Michael Brooks." Silence. Not just surprise, recognition. The name landed like a detonator. Jackson's mouth opened slightly, then closed. For a beat, he looked like he had seen a ghost. He turned toward the bar, quickly gesturing for a drink he didn't need. "He was on the security design team," Nathan continued. "I have his old notes, his sketches, the things he wasn't allowed to finish." "Enough," Jackson said, low and sharp. But Nathan didn't stop. "You buried his name, called it an unfortunate incident. But the truth is, he warned you about the redundancy flaw. He told you it was ego, not protection. You called it a waste of time." Jackson's jaw clenched. Mary's voice cracked as she tried to interject. "Nathan, that's—" "No," the boy said. "He should hear it." For a long moment, Jackson said nothing. Then he forced a grin and looked to the board members. "Smart kid," he said. "But we don't take tech advice from middle schoolers." Nathan didn't flinch. "You don't take advice at all." Jackson stepped closer. "Listen, I don't know what fantasy you've built around your father, but he was an engineer. Good, sure, but not irreplaceable." "He didn't want to be irreplaceable," Nathan said. "He wanted to build something honest, and you turned his work into a trophy." The words landed with terrifying calm. Jackson looked at the others in the room, his empire, his audience, and saw doubt. Not just in Nathan, but in him. He needed to flip the narrative. "You want money? Is that it?" Jackson said louder now. "I made a stupid bet, fine. You want to collect? Let's up the stakes. Open the vault and I'll make you CEO for a day. Or do you just enjoy playing martyr in front of an audience?" Nathan looked around the room slowly, then back at Jackson. "I don't want your money," he said. "And I don't need an audience. I just need you to know I could open it." That was the moment the room turned, not with noise, but stillness, because no one believed he was bluffing. And Jackson knew it too. Nathan walked back to Mary. "We came to say sorry, but I'm not sorry." He paused at the door, turning one last time. "I'll come back," he said, "but next time I'll bring conditions." And just like that, he was gone. Jackson Reed stood in the center of his empire, surrounded by silence, and for the first time in his life he realized something terrifying. The boy wasn't playing a game. He was rewriting the rules. The investor gala was supposed to be Jackson Reed's grand reset. After the awkward fallout from the previous week's challenge, The billionaire did what he always did when the narrative slipped from his grip. He tried to buy it back. He rented out the top floor of the new Skyglass Tower, the tallest building in Midtown, and turned it into a palace of distraction. LED walls wrapped the room in immersive cityscapes. Waiters floated through the crowd with trays of sea urchin foam and saffron-infused champagne. Jazz musicians played from a floating glass platform. But despite the spectacle, something in the room buzzed beneath the surface. A whisper, a name. Nathan. At first, it had been a private embarrassment, something Jackson could brush off as a one-time incident with a precocious kid. But then the video leaked. Someone at the penthouse had filmed it. The moment Nathan said, "You shouldn't make bets when you don't understand what you're betting with." The clip exploded. It had everything the internet loved: a ruthless billionaire, a child genius, and a mother with tired eyes watching her son speak truth to power. News outlets ran it non-stop. Think pieces bloomed like weeds. Memes, edits, reaction videos. It all spiraled out of Jackson's control. And now everyone was watching. Not just investors, not just employees, the world. Still, Jackson tried to lean in. He called it the Vault event, a celebration of innovation. He had the same high-security vault rolled into the gala, spotlighted like a monument. He gave a speech about strength, vision, and legacy, about creating systems that outlive our critics. The applause was polite. He was halfway through bragging about the vault's specifications when a disturbance rippled through the back of the room. The crowd parted. Nathan walked in. No cameras, no press badge, just a hoodie and that same calm fire in his eyes. At his side was Mary, dressed in clean but modest office wear. Her hands trembled. His didn't. Jackson paused, mid-sentence. "I see we have a familiar face in the crowd." The audience turned. Some gasped. Others reached for phones. Jackson stepped down from the stage, attempting a smile. "You really know how to make an entrance." Nathan didn't smile back. He walked straight toward the vault. No stage, no script, just me. He stopped in front of the vault. Silence fell like snow. Then Nathan spoke, not to Jackson but to the room. "This vault wasn't built to protect something valuable," he said. "It was built to protect someone's pride." A ripple went through the crowd. He looked at Jackson. "You built a fortress to hide behind. You made it loud, bright, intimidating. But you forgot the most important rule." He leaned in slightly, and then he whispered a string of numbers, clear, precise, with no hesitation. The dial clicked. Several guests gasped audibly. The room froze. Jackson's face turned to stone, but Nathan didn't open it. He stepped back, hands by his side. "I'm not here to take what's inside," he said, "because the real damage wasn't what you locked away. It was the idea that no one else could ever reach it." Jackson's voice cracked slightly. "So what do you want? You already made your point." Nathan met his eyes. "I want 3 things. Nothing more, nothing less." He held up a finger. "First, my mother gets a real job, not cleaning up after men who spill power on the floor. Something worthy of her mind and dignity." A second finger. "Second, you create a permanent education fund for the children of your workers, all of them, not just executives, factory techs, night shift janitors, cafeteria workers. Knowledge shouldn't be locked in vaults either." A third. "And third, you change the code, because now it's vulnerable. And not because of me, because of you." Jackson stared at the boy, every muscle in his body tense. The crowd didn't speak. Some watched in awe, others with admiration. Nathan stepped back, nodding once to his mother. Mary looked like she might cry. And just like that, they turned and walked away. Not with a victory, with a revolution. No one moved, no one clapped. The room was too stunned, too shaken. Jackson Reed stood alone next to a vault that had just become a monument to his weakness, not his wealth. And across every screen in the country, the footage spread. The boy who cracked the code without ever opening the door. For 48 hours, Jackson Reed's empire teetered on the edge of collapse. The video of Nathan whispering the code had gone global. Talk shows, news panels, podcasts, Everyone was dissecting it. Not just the moment, but what it meant. Power being challenged, arrogance being unmasked. Stockholders panicked. Activists gathered outside Reed Corp's headquarters with signs reading, "Unlock the Truth" and "We are all Nathan." Board members called emergency meetings. Internal leaks revealed documents tied to the death of Michael Brooks, confirming what many feared. Jackson's empire wasn't just built on ambition, it was built on silence. His allies, gone. His advisors, gone. The narrative had changed, and he couldn't buy it back. So he did something no one expected. He didn't run. The press conference took place at the company's downtown campus. No glitz, no champagne. Just a plain stage, one podium, and Jackson Reed standing without a tie, his sleeves rolled up, looking more human than he ever had. Cameras flashed, the room was packed, the world was watching. Jackson cleared his throat and began. "I've made mistakes," he said. "Big ones. I created systems that made people feel small, disposable, invisible. I surrounded myself with yes men and designed machines to hide my own insecurity. I silenced voices that deserved to be heard. One of those voices belonged to a boy named Nathan, and another belonged to his father, Michael Brooks." He paused, eyes heavy. "What happened to Michael was not just an accident, it was a failure. My failure." There were no interruptions, no applause, just quiet. "I won't step down, not because I want to hold on to power, but because I want to redeem it. Starting today, Reed Corp is restructuring from the ground up." He raised a hand. "Effective immediately. We are establishing a $100 million education fund for the children of every employee in this company, no matter their role or title, from executives to janitors." Another breath. "Second, we are moving to a shared decision-making model. Every department from the ground floor up will have a voice at the table, including one new voice." He turned to the side. "Nathan Brooks will be joining the board as a junior advisor." The press erupted in gasps. "And finally," Jackson said, looking directly into the camera, "Mary Brooks, who has served this company with grace and grit for over a decade, is being promoted to lead our new family outreach division, focused on community care, internal advocacy, and employee equity." He stepped back from the podium, and just like that, the world shifted again. Weeks passed. Nathan's face became a symbol of something new, not rebellion, reconstruction. Schools studied his speech. Protest movements used his story to demand change from their own employers and governments. But Nathan didn't want fame. He didn't want interviews or autographs. What he wanted was to visit his father. The cemetery was quiet that morning. Dew clung to the grass. The sky was overcast, like it too was holding its breath. Nathan stood between Mary and Jackson. None of them spoke at first. Michael Brooks's gravestone was simple. Under his name it read, "Builder of Safe Places." Nathan knelt down and placed a small box beside the headstone. Inside was a worn, old-fashioned skeleton key, the first key his father had ever given him, the one he kept in his backpack for years, even when he didn't understand why. "I used to think this was supposed to unlock something important," he said, his voice soft. "But now I know." He opened a small hole in the soil and placed the box gently inside. The real treasures aren't meant to be locked away. They're meant to be shared. He stood, and Jackson stepped forward with a sapling in his hands. An oak tree. Together, the three of them planted it next to the grave. Its roots would grow deep, its branches would stretch toward the sky, and someday, long after they were gone, it would stand as a living reminder that legacies are not built by what we keep, but by what we give and what we change.